Okay, I don't know how long I can drag this out, so I'm gonna try to make this the last video, but I'm not gonna promise you anything because when you're talking about martial arts, I can do this all day because martial arts is my life. All right, so I can tell you as I left off with the arsenal of both my knee and my hand, with which whatever one's closer to you. In real life, I'm doing this to save me, not you. I know my primary targets. If I'm kneeing you, it's because I've already gotten you doubled over. So if you're already there and my hand's already there, I'm just gonna keep pushing, and then I'm going to get you to the ground. Once I get you to the ground, I'm gonna put my knee in your neck so that you can stop breathing, so that you won't hurt me anymore. Hopefully, when I put my knee in your neck, I won't kill you. But if you can't breathe, I know you can't hurt me, and you know the same. If I can't breathe, I can't hurt you. I have no intention of taking this ass whooping, so that's just the way it's gonna have to be. Now, again, when you're making a film, you want it to be as flashy as possible because it catches the eye. And anything that catches the eye, you all just stop to look at that. You're probably gonna hit the rewind and try to see how many of those there were. So let me slow it down. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, this is basically rope-a-dope. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom. Okay? So if you can see that, it's a rope-a-dope. It's the same thing as passing hands for Tai Chi. It's the same thing. So, boom. No, hands are open now. So, block, boom. No, there's your Kung Fu. Here's Karate. Block, counter. Actually, that was Kung Fu. Block, counter. That's Karate. The simple differences between karate and kung fu are really this small. For most people who teach you kung fu, their goal is to teach you to get on the outside of your opponent. So you want to be over here. So if I'm throwing this punch, you're blocking and breaking at the same time. So that's coming straight through. You sidestep, you're blocking and breaking. Wrist here, fist here, push here, push here. So you're pushing this way and pulling, basically. I fucked that up. So this is at the elbow, and this is at the wrist. And if both hands are this way, you're pulling and pushing. If you land this way, you're pulling and pushing. Okay? It just doesn't seem that way because you're doing it this way. Understand? And that's from a straight jab. Alright? Now, most people are going to have a lot of power behind that, and they're going to turn at the hip, and they're going to throw that power. You don't want to be there for the connection, which is why you want to do it this way or do it this way. So if you block it this way and you elbow, they still have the hand here, which they're going to nail you with. So you get outside and you break and then you slide up. Because they have to cross over themselves, because they're here, they have to cross over themselves to get to you. But by then you're over here. And if you're over here, you're good. If you're right here, they may have a fighting chance if they utilize the weapon that's closest to them, which would be their right leg. You have to understand how your body works. When somebody's about to break your arm, you don't want to cross over. You either want to roll with it, so when they're pushing, you want to step with it so that they don't break your shit. Or you want to utilize the vehicle, weapon, whatever you want to call it, this is closest to them, so before they can break your shit, you want to strike. They might hyperextend your shit, which is okay because it's not broken, it still functions, versus it being broken and not functioning. You'll be in a little bit of pain. You'll still have another wheel, but you're going to be in a lot of pain. Once the adrenaline kicks in, you're going to be fine. But if the adrenaline doesn't kick in and this shit gets broken, you're going to know what the hell happened to you. I talk to a lot of people about good and bad breaks, alright? Thought that was a fly. A good break, really, for your opponent, there's no such thing as a good break. For you, I tell people, if I have to break a bone on someone, first I know I'm going to regret putting someone through that, but at the same time, if this is a real fight and they have nothing but bad intentions for me, I'll live in regret later. Alright, I'm not trying to kill them, I'm not going to let them kill me, I'm not going to let them hurt me. So, I always tell people, I teach you to break at the elbow, where when you watch Steven Seagal movies, they teach you to break at the knees and the middle, like right there, where they teach you to break at the femur. I teach people to break at the knees and the elbows because those are primary joints, pressure points, as well as arteries, and they slow down the flow of blood, if not completely stop the flow of blood. And the reason I teach that is because it's more easy to utilize when their arm is not designed to go that way. So that's why a lot of people in BJJ or BBJ, whatever the hell you want to call it, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's why they tap out when they're locked up, when their arm is locked between somebody's legs and they have their head wrapped around and you're pinned down. That's why they tap, because that shit hurts when you're hyperextending that arm and tap fast. It's better you to lose than to lose your arm. Now when you're out in the streets, there's no tapping out. Somebody's going to get knocked out. Somebody's going to the hospital. Somebody may even die. So let's get that out the way just in case as a disclaimer. If you get into a street fight, there is no real tapping out. And people are cruel, so if you get knocked out and they'll come along and kick you while you're down, they have no honor. Alright? Or it was an adrenaline rush and a very bad decision. I've never kicked anybody while they're down. There's no honor in that. I've already defeated them, so I don't need to kick them while they're down. Yes, somehow I have my hair on my tongue. Anyway, the whole point of fighting is to protect yourself. However, if you're going to make a living fighting, the whole point of fighting is to protect yourself while hurting other people. And sadly, that is a hardcore truth, and I can't put that any nicer. You can ask MMA guys. We do, hug and kiss and apologize for it, but at the same time, in the heat of that moment, none of that stuff counts. None of that stuff matters because you're getting paid to take this ass whooping. Now, when you're making a movie, you have to sell the injury. When you're making a movie, you have to sell the kick or the punch. You have to sell it. And when I say that, okay, I don't know what the hell is going on there. But when I say that, it's because you're making a movie and no one wants to see this. They want to see this. They want to see a person taking a hit and flying halfway across the room. Okay, they want to see that. So when you're shooting in whatever angle, you need to know your camera angles, you need to know your tricks, and you need to have this thing worked out before the first punch or kick is thrown. And if you have your good camera angles, the untrained eye isn't going to know. The trained eye, or that of martial artists, they're going to be able to point that shit out. It's like, nah, that was a total miss. They're going to point that out, and they're going to point it out real good. So you're going to wind up reshooting. And you don't want to have to keep reshooting, especially when you make an independent film. You're limited on people's time. Alright? So, when I made The Path of Ascension, we incorporated special effects. When I made the webisodes, The Guardians of the Earth, we incorporated weapons because it was cheaper to use plastic swords and things versus special effects, which the special effects were going to be added in until all my put together shit got stolen. So I'm going to have to put together a watered down version of what I saw in my head at the time back in 2010, filming it, or 2008 and 9 actually, because we started like 2009, I think we started, and then, 2009, so it's been 10 years. We started in 2009, we finished in 2009, because we filmed this whole thing of webisodes in like maybe 6 weekends. So 6 Saturdays, 5 or 7 Sundays, it kind of depends on who could do it and who couldn't do it. See, scheduling, because we have to work our real jobs, was a bit of an issue. And so when you're making an independent film, you can't just up and quit your job. You have to make the time to make the film, and everybody has to have their scheduling. And with a couple of actors who just didn't want to do it and not show up and screw up everybody else's day, those things happen. So that being said, when we were filming, we had to work these things out, and then we had to utilize what we had to put things together. And once we did that, it was a whole different ball game versus, not doing it at all. Now, when you're in a real fight, it's not going to look like the movies. It's not going to look like the movies at all. It's going to be a drag-out knockdown. There's not going to be a lot of talking going on. Once the fucking arms and stuff start swinging, it's not going to be, I'm going to fuck you up this, I'm going to beat your ass that. No, save that drama for your mama, because that's going to be some shit you see in the films. And a good line in the films will get people to keep their ass in a chair long enough for you to do the damage that you said you're going to do. In a real fight, it's, alright, make the first move, motherfucker. Alright, let's go. And then the fight is on. Where in a Dragon Ball Z fashion of talking, you'll have dialogue in a movie that you want people to go home and copy, like "I'll be back," "Trust me," or any other good one-liner. In a real fight, there's no one-liners. There's not a whole lot of talking. And if you're the victim of someone who's threatening you and they just keep popping off shit, popping off shit, popping off shit, they're not going to fight you because they're talking too much. Most people who are going to fight you, straight up and down, they're not going to do all that damn talking. If they want to fight you, if they really want to fight you, they will follow you to the ends of the earth. They will follow you to your job. They will come in your job and they will start shit and force you into combat. That's real fighting, okay? That's when, you know, your back's against the wall and you're going to fight. I have never gotten into a fight on my job. I tried to get fired to fight a guy on the job. Long story. Didn't happen because good workers are hard to find, and Mr. Stoner at Keckler's just would not fire me. Alright? So that's how that worked out. But at the same time, I knew I had the skills to do it. I just couldn't fight the Marine, the chef, the other chef, and my boss, plus the Green Beret that taught me how to fight while I was at work, to go out and kill this guy who looked just like me because he was dating my ex-fiance that broke up with me over the phone while I was working at Keckler's the night before. So, you know, but I was ready to kill that guy. Had I been thinking, you know, I could have just went through the chef because they had that opening, and I wasn't thinking. I was, like, enraged, which is another thing when I tell people about martial arts. This here is everything. Before I leave, before I close this video, you have to understand that in a fight, your thought process is everything. Your brain power, your control, your ultimate fight is that fight within your head first. You have to always be thinking 10 steps ahead of every breath you take. Let me explain that for all the martial artists who are going to say, James, you're full of shit. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's bullshit. Blah, 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 blah. How many times have you gotten into a sparring match and thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this kick and that kick, and then when the sparring match goes, none of those kicks ever come out because you're in a sparring match. In a sparring match next to real combat, your mentality to think and act aren't always the same. Your mentality to act and react aren't always what's going on here. It takes a lot of focus to know exactly what you're going to do and then do it and tell yourself you're going to do it because it takes a lot of focus to do that. Now you got this thing going on called a sparring match. You're working on adrenaline, you're working on excitement, you're working on a plan to use against your sparring partner that may either fail or succeed. And you're thinking of all this shit in a matter of microseconds. Well, I'm going to do a spinning back fist. I'm going to do a front kick and a spinning back kick. So I'm going to do a front kick first, which is this. Boom. I'm going to do a spinning back kick, which is this. And then I'm going to do a taekwondo side kick, which is that. That's great in theory. Until that whistle blows and you both start jumping around and you're thinking, what did I say I was going to do? Next thing you know, there's a fist coming at you, so you're blocking. You know, that's what you're going to do. Because you're reacting and reacting some more to the guy who you thought you're going to attack first. He's already on his A game, and he's bringing it all hard and core, and you can only do whatever the hell your body allows you to do because your thought process just said, everything you were planning before that sparring match just go, trust me, I've had this happen. I still won, but I had this happen because my sparring partner unexpectedly decided to throw some rapid punches towards me. And all I could do was boom, 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 boom. And I was thinking to myself, I need to do something else. And I'm just blocking. And I saw the wall, and I got him out the way. And I, instead of like turning immediately to go get him, I evaded him by running toward the wall. And then he came at me. I put my foot on the wall. I ran up the wall, and I jumped down and Captain America'd his ass. And I scored, you know. Boom. This was in high school. This was before Mr. Leatherwood caught us sparring one day and told us that if we ever did that again, we would be suspended. So I did some unorthodox shit because at the time, it was all I had. And that's how it works sometimes. When you're sparring and you think you have a plan, don't think about your plan. Be ready. And I was not ready. But he was a black belt, and he was ready until I did that. when I did that, it shocked him. So if it worked once, I did it again. He's like, man, you can't keep doing this. Hey, you're the black belt, buddy. You know? So when he tried to foot sweep me, again, up the wall. He's like, man, they didn't teach me that in school. I said, they didn't teach me that in school either. I got that shit out of a comic book. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, I got that shit out of a comic book. So, you know, there are things that you can learn, not off the internet, but you probably can learn it too, but there are things you can learn how to utilize. Having a plan in your head versus initiating the plan when the match begins doesn't always work, which is why you need to be able to adapt, and you need to be able to adapt fast. Now, in the movie, it's all planned out. You know, I'm supposed to run to this wall and run up this wall, and you're supposed to push me high enough so that I can bust a backflip, land on my feet, break into a hero pose, and go right back at it. Where in real life, that's highly unlikely. But what is highly unlikely is that my back's going to get against that wall and you're going to throw a jab. And I have two options. I can block that bitch. I can get out of the way and let you hit that wall and break your fucking hand. Or I can grab it and slam it into the wall and try to break your fucking hand. Why do I say that? Because I have punched a brick sparring with my cousin one time and she didn't know what to do. She ducked and I punched the brick. I did not break the brick, but I ripped the knuckles on my fucking hand really, really good. So whenever brick breaking and stuff came, I learned that my hands weren't made to do that. Luckily, I didn't break my hand. I tore the skin off my two front knuckles. And my cousin, she was shocked because we play fought all the time. And she's like, oh, well, damn, that really hurt. And I was like, why did you duck? And she's like, because you were really close to hitting me. So after that, thanks, Tanya. Anyway, after that, I learned two things very important. First off, don't throw a punch at a brick. No. Second off, if you're going to spar with somebody, your game plan is always changing in motion. Yeah, because you don't know what they're going to do. If they're going to block it, if they're going to break your hand. Or I sparred with one person once, and I must have pissed them off because they tried to hurt me a little bit because they kept trying to hit me harder. And I learned that these two knuckles right here, when I took Kempo, these two knuckles are fairly dangerous to someone who's throwing a clenched fist. So during our sparring match, I'd bam, you know, every time they throw a punch, I'd be like, bow, and I'd hit their hand. It's like, you need to stop. It's like, hey, you're trying to hurt me. If this is the way I have to get your attention so that you realize we're just sparring, then this is what I got to do. And so they stop and continue to go back to pulling their punches. Now, the thing with sparring, you're not trying to hurt people. A lot of people don't know that when they spar. They literally are trying to hurt people. Those people should not be sparring. Now, if you're going to learn a martial art, your teachers are going to teach you how to spar. But when you go home and you practice what you've learned, you must practice hard. Because how you fight and how you practice are going to become one entity. And so you need to be able to understand sparring, control. Real fighting, control, but disciplined control to when to turn it up or turn it down. Alright? 9 times out of 10, I would tell you should probably turn it down. Because once the adrenaline comes in, that full-powered punch could put somebody in the hospital or it could put them in the morgue. And if you've been doing martial arts as long as I have, you know that this can happen, so you should not do that. However, hopefully this thing's still recording. Okay, good, still recording. However, if you know how the human body works, if you know how the mechanics of joints and pressure points work, you can end any fight swiftly by understanding one principle. If a person can't breathe, they can't hurt you. Second principle is, if you're not sure you can beat a person, then just walk away. That's the first thing that anybody who teaches you martial arts should suggest. You are learning martial arts to learn how to protect yourself. Sometimes the best way to protect yourself is to not fight at all. Walk away. Now, I'm not saying lay there and take an ass whooping. I said it in plain English. Walk away. Now, if you can't walk away and things get real, that's when you start relying on things like kill zones, temples, throats, things like that. You know, when you're stuck and you really have to fight for your life, that's a whole horse of another color. When you're sparring, you're just sparring. There's no problem in losing a sparring match. Because losing is how you learn. Alright? Try to remember that. Now, So this thing's gone a little bit longer than I want it to. So I'm going to try to end this, and this will probably be the longest tape because we're at the 20-minute mark. So now I'm going to utilize what I learned in making films since I've come this far and talked mostly about sparring matches and real fights. When you are making a film, your job as the actor, your job as the producer, is to produce a film worthy of making someone sit down in that chair, hold their urine until this film is over. How do you do that? You have a great story, and you throw some good martial arts in there. If they're a martial art fan, they're not moving. Let's say it's a science fiction horror movie. Why did I say science fiction horror movie? Because if you've seen Jason in Space, there was a martial artist in there, and she was an android. Her nipples fell off. It's the only thing I really remember, and how he bashed the Asian girl in the sleeping bag, which was kind of sucky, in a tree. And how the other Asian girl, Lexi Dong, really tore his ass a new one. And then the black guy came back and they both fell to earth, but the black guy didn't survive, but somehow another Jason did. But anyway, the whole point of it is that you want that audience to get that popcorn, you want them to get that drink, and you want them to sit their fanny in that chair for that hour and a half that they have invested into this with $17.95. You're damn right I want you to stay in that chair. So I want a fight scene that's going to be so dynamic, and I want it in the middle, in the beginning, and at the end. Now, I don't want it to be the same fight, but maybe I want it to be the same characters. Let's say at the beginning, the good guy gets his ass beat. Or better yet, no, the bad guy gets his ass beat, then they meet again, and the good guy gets his ass beat. At the final fight, it can either be a draw, but the bad guy can lose, or both of those guys have to team up against a bigger bad guy. Now, it just depends on what the story entails. Your story is everything. Your story decides how these guys are going to meet, how these guys are going to come together. And initially, when I was trying to film The Dragon's Breath, no, excuse me, not The Dragon's Breath. When I was trying to film Fallen Dragons, that was basically the concept. You got 7 teenagers, or early 20s. You got some grown people with the concept of they were subjected to science experiment by the military. These kids were special, which is why these kids are important to those kids that are the subject, because they need to have these kids' DNA to cure whatever the side effect of whatever was done to them. But it was based on those kids' DNA. So those kids are getting kidnapped by these guys, and they can't kill them. They need to do stuff to fix them. All right, that was pretty much the concept. So you got these guys going around kidnapping these college cats to analyze whose blood is the catalyst to fix their issue. They're dying, but they're dying slowly on the inside. But the outside, they're not aging, but they're dying. You understand? Because the teenagers or the college kids were babies when they were subjected to whatever donations that their families signed up for, paid for some of their college funds, that kind of shit. They just didn't know each other. The doctor knew. And he injected special stuff into the soldiers. The soldiers went and killed things and then started having adverse effects. So a few years later, they discovered how they got it, what was the problem, and then they had to go solve it. Now, had I had the 14 people that I needed, I would have had an awesome-ass movie. I only had 7 people. So 3 guys had to be bad guys, 4 guys was good guys, and then we had a bigger bad guy who basically caused the whole fucking problem. So the plan of the movie was to have more story, less fight. Since I didn't have the people I need, it wound up being less story, more fight. So there's a scene where Jay Diz and I are fighting in a university parking lot, and he slams my head into a blue emergency phone, and he does the AT&T reach out and touch people thing. So before we did the scene, I said, we're going to utilize that blue phone. So do not open it because it will summon the police, and we're not supposed to be filming here. So we're not going to do that. but we're going to have a fight scene. This whole thing, when I put it together, was awesome. But we're going to have this fight scene, and we're going to start at the top of the parking lot and end at the bottom of the parking lot. But it's going to cut in between or whatever. And I can't remember if it played out that way, but what happened was when we got the fight scene, I was like, before we start fighting, that blue thing, you're going to hit my head on it. And then you're going to go away, and I'm going to be chasing you. And then when we get to the bottom, I'm going to catch you, and we're going to have another fight, and you're going to escape. Somehow or another, that's how it's supposed to work. And then I'm supposed to run into my Chinese brother or something and have a good fight. It worked out totally different than what I described just now. But anyway, the good news is the fight scene was great. The bad news is my head literally hit the goddamn blue box with the emergency phone in it. And it hurt like shit. And he delivered the line. Reach out and touch someone. Then he walked off frame, and I had to holler as fast as possible, cut. He's like, you okay? I was like, hell no. You literally hit my head against this damn phone booth, and you think I'm okay. So we recovered, and we finished filming that day. We went home. Then we filmed with the Bowie sisters. Then we filmed with Adrian Cal. Then we filmed with Philip. Then we filmed with Eric Chen, and we filmed with Lewis. And we put something together, and it was okay. It wasn't okay for Sundance, and it wasn't okay for the other studio that made me make the movie in the first place because they never gave me a goddamn job. But that being said, I put stuff together. It was great. We had great camera angles. We had great techniques. The Bowie sisters were great. Everybody was great. And I'm sorry that I failed you guys, but at the same time, we worked really hard on it. I also was struck down by kidney stones. That's neither here nor there now, but that cost us a lot of filming because I was hurt really bad and I couldn't show up to film, and they didn't know what to do because I wasn't there to instruct them on filming because my ass was in the hospital. So, well, my ass was going to the hospital, and then I wound up going to a neurologist, and having someone play with your testicles is really not fun when it's medical. So after that, we made up, we got more filming done, and then I fixed it. I made copies. I gave everyone a copy. At least I think I gave everyone a copy. And if you didn't get a copy, I'm sorry. I don't know if I have any more VHS tapes. But anyway, so that should tell you how old it was when we were filming. So after that, we worked out a lot of fight scenes. And after we were finished, Adrian and I had a couple of fight scenes. But me and Eric, we sparred a lot, which is why he shut down my fucking toes. But when you're in a real fight, it's different. When you're fighting in a movie, you get to go all out and you get to do things, And as for like the knee and the neck, I made Josh do that to me in one scene or another. I can't remember what it was because he was supposed to be a military guy. And since Josh's family isn't military and mine is, plus I was trained by a Green Beret, I decided, okay, this is how this is going to happen. You're going to flip me and you're going to put your knee in my neck and then you're going to say some slick shit, which he did. I don't remember the lines. But that's how we made it, and we kept going. So then when I made Dragon's Breath, pretty much just like that, sadly, I could not get the people that I wanted, and the main girl quit the day before we filmed. So that was awful. So I had to use whatever reluctant young girl's booty walked on my set. So we had a small rewrite that my girl wouldn't be in the film. And so, in that small rewrite, I think I used 2 Asian girls' backsides. So that was their booties. And I got knocked out for a second, and that's where I put that in. So then I kick up to my feet, not the kip up. Initially, it was called a kick up, not the kip up. I don't know where the hell that name came from. But anyway, I kicked up, or as you guys now call it, the kip up. I kicked up and continued to fight. In the end, the hero wins. Him and the frenemy becomes friends, and they go off about their business. Now, how I had it wrote in the script was totally different, but when the girl left and I got finished filming with Mr. Lee, I should have had Mr. Lee play my father. That's what I should have done. I should have had him play my father and gave him more, but he didn't have a lot of time because he was a family man, and Mr. Lee, I'm sorry, and I thank you very much. And, I'm also sorry that I failed. And things just kept going from bad to worse for me. And here it is, night 10 years later, we made this like 2003, I think. So yeah, we had a good time making it and everything, but it just never got to launch because everything that could go wrong has gone wrong since I started trying to make movies, literally. But when you're making a movie, you want something that's going to catch the attention of the audience. You want a story that's decent, and you want action if it's an action movie. You want horror if it's a horror movie. You want sci-fi if it's a sci-fi film. Now here's why I like sci-fi horror. I have three genres that I love for movies. Drama is not one of them. I will never be good at drama. Let's keep it real. Sci-fi, horror, and kung fu are led by some of the best one-liners ever. So if I had to be put in a category of making movies, action movies, horror films, sci-fi, kung fu. Drama, I'm going to need a really, really good acting coach. And I got to say, I won't do it. I'm just going to say that I don't want to suck at it, and I know I'm going to suck at it. So, kung fu. Are you Fing Chang Pao? Yes, I am. That's too bad. I liked you. But I've come a very long way to kill you because you wouldn't let Tong Chong Li get those damn rice cakes. Well, it's a damn shame you've come all this way because I'm not the one that's going to die. You're going to die. Yeah, lines like that. That was dubbed from one of those old school kung fu movies that I was talking about. I think might not have been Gordon Lau, but it was somebody in there. Might not have been Sonny Chiba either, but it was an Asian line. I'm not the one that's going to die. You're going to die. I've come a very long way to kill you. So, lines like that catch people's attention. Because I still remember this line from when I was a freaking 7-year-old. So, and then it's a line that Courtney used in our Guardians of the Earth, where he beat my ass and left me lying in the sand, and I was trying to get up, and he said, next time, I'm going to kill you or something. And I said, something, and he said, no, I said, why don't you just kill us and get it over with? And he looks back, and he goes, where's the fun in that? And he walks off, and right there, when you see that scene, you knew that the bad guy had control of everything, right then and there, because you knew once he beat the lead hero, it was a done deal. Now, at the beginning, let me just start a new video. Nope, like I said, we can go to the 45. To hell with it. I'm just going to keep going. At the beginning of the film, for the webisodes, he comes from another planet. His name is Daikon Dark Cloud. And I can talk about this because it's mine. It's stolen. It's on somebody's desk in Alabama. But it's mine. And if you're watching out there in Alabama, please send me my shit back. 512 Rougemont, 22902, Charlottesville, Virginia. Please send me my shit back. You would make it a hell of a lot easier than me having to make a watered-down version of some awesome shit. Anyway, moving on. So you could tell right off the bat when he got there that he was bad news. Because all you see him in is in a cloak. Before he even arrives on Earth, he's attacking us in our dreams. So in the dream scenes, he gets Josh, he gets Chris, he gets Charles, and he gets me. He doesn't get Tay because Tay is the it factor. Tay was our Tommy. While we were the other Rangers, Tay was our Tommy. He was like the White Ranger while we were the other assorted rainbow-colored guys. So he attacks Josh, he attacks me, he attacks Chris, he attacks Charles. Now each dream that he attacks us, you can tell it's a dream about the foggy scene. And I think I took probably the worst attack. No, me and Chris both took the worst attacks. He didn't really do too much to Josh, and he didn't really do that much to Charles because Charles had some filming obligations that he just wasn't really trying to fulfill. But Josh had to go to work, plus his health isn't always great, so we had to work with that. But Chris and I, we and Courtney put each other through the ringer, and it was a good scene, and then we all wake up and then we have the meeting. So at the meeting, that's when Tay pops up, but nobody sees Tay. And that meeting, I think the film is maybe 40 some odd minutes long, and it's all one angle, one shot, and you get to see Tay pop in. Then, by the time you get to the 7th episode, no, excuse me. By the time you get to the 5th or the 3rd episode, because I had to keep the episodes short. Initially, I wanted 13 episodes. We only did 7 So by the time you get between the third and the fifth episode, he has confronted Tay. All right. So in the first episode is the longest episode, I think. It's like 40 some odd minutes long, and it leads you into what's about to break down after the dream scene. Then after we have our first initial conflict with this dude, which is in the park where we're training, and that's where the rewrite came in because the two guys in the park with me, they die. They die right there in the park. So Charles and Dustin both die because they never came back to film anything else, and I had to kill them off because they were voted off. And they just didn't want to film. And all they had to do was say no from the jump so that I could have found other people, and I wouldn't have had to kill them off. But I had to kill them off because I couldn't find anybody else. There was no time, and we had already started filming, and there was no way in hell I could get somebody who looks like them to replace them. You know, and I don't have CGI technology, so we're fighting in the park. Courtney jumps Charles and I, and he blasts us with laser blast, so we're taken out. And then he kills Charles, and he kills Dustin, and he leaves me for dead, basically, and that's where he goes, where's the fun in that? So it's pretty freaking awesome, and it was put together very nicely. And then he opens up a portal and walks away, and then I open up a portal and I go talk to Chris, and then somewhere along the line, he attacks Tay and Josh by using Rodney, and when they think they're done with that, then they have a battle with the bad guy, and the bad guy again initially fucks them up. And then the bad guy gets Tay by himself and throws him through the portal and his weapon. And then we all have our own spiritual journey through the Fear Forest, and then we all reunite. I lose leadership. Josh's character takes over, and then there's a whole other gambit that happens in there, and I don't want to ruin it if I ever get it up so y'all can watch it at the same time. And then the final fight happens where the big reveal comes in, and then after the big reveal comes in, we believe that we have eliminated the threat. But after the credits roll, you will see that the threat has not been eliminated, that the threat comes in like right after the credit rolls, and he comes back and he makes us up at home and starts flinging stuff around in our compound. And just keep this in mind, the 722,000. I don't have it anymore, but the 722,000, that's something you're going to want to look for, because that's like our best fight scene in the house ever. And so, after I get hit with the 722,000, and those gargoyle statues that I had that have like since started crumbling to dust, you know, they were great. I actually need to get more statues like that, but I need to get something that's a little bit more sturdy than the cement stuff. And I didn't paint them because I wanted them to have a natural feel, and they were gray, and gray showed up pretty well on camera. We had to do some risky stuff with that because I didn't buy enough. I only bought 2 of them because it was like my last $2, so I bought them from the Dollar Tree. Anyway, when you get through all of the dichotomy of the whole movie, you'll see that the fight scenes had to have certain elements. So I had to do camera angles. I had to do choreographing. We did all kinds of stuff, and Rodney was great. Tay was great. Courtney was great. Josh and Chris was great. And I was great because I was the only other person that I can mention because no one else showed up. Anyway, we put together a fairly decent montage, and it was great. And there were 7 episodes. All it needed was special effects. So when I remake this thing, there will be no special effects. I'm just going to put everything together as hopefully as great as I can, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm James Williams Jr., just a couple favorite number 2. Just remember 2 things as we close out. Alright, 1. What you can use in a real fight, you can use in a film if you're lucky. And you need to be very, very lucky as well as very, very skillful. What you can use in a fight, in a film, you cannot always use in the streets. That's the real true difference maker. Because a lot of things that you see in films, it's highly probable that you will get messed up trying to do that. And that's what this whole video boils down to. You can do some of those tornado kicks and stuff in a real fight. I've seen it done in the sparring matches where the guys are padded up on YouTube and everything. And I'm not going to say that it's a practical movement. But I am going to tell you this. If you're going to do this, you must be prepared for what happens when you miss. Now, if you do a tornado kick and you fly way over your target and all of this is exposed, boom, you're getting hit in your nether regions. And if you're going against somebody like me, you're getting hit in your nether regions, especially if we're in the street. Now, if we're in a tournament, I'm not going to lay there and take that kick. But some people do just to see if they're tough enough to take that kick. Not the kid. If you're going for a tornado kick, I'm going for two things. A back step or a side step and a strike. If I can strike you with a side step and a strike, it will probably be pure reflex. I would recommend to myself, when you're doing that tornado kick, is just to block and get the hell out the way. You know, block and step back. Block and step back. Because some things that you do can either lead you to a victory or a swift defeat. If you stand there and try to take a tornado kick, you're asking to get knocked the hell out. However, if you can block it, which is not impossible, highly improbable, but it's easier for you to just dodge it and strike than it is for you to stand there and try to block it. Now, let's add a real factor here, because I'm 5'3". So if I'm throwing a tornado kick towards someone, let's say the likes of Scott Atkins, Michael Jai White, Nathan Jones, the wrestler, or anyone over 5'5", the chances of me nailing someone that's that solid and that big and actually jarring them is slim to zero. Now, I probably got a good chance of probably grazing them. As far as Nathan Jones, because he's a huge guy compared to me, he could catch me in midair and end the fight with a body slam or a slam on the face. You know, he's a big guy. If you guys don't remember Nathan Jones from WWE, Google him. And here's the reality of that. I'm 5'3", I'm a $125. So me throwing a tornado kick at him is very, very stupid. If I have to fight a guy that big, I'm sticking to basics. Because I know he has a lot more body mass to move. Which means I have to hit him twice as hard as I would hit somebody my size. Just to do damage. Just to let him know that he's been hit. And that would go for anybody if I was fighting The Rock, if I was fighting Diesel, if I was fighting Roman Reigns. You know, those guys are big guys. They're all over the 6 foot plus mark. I'm 5'3". Where if I was going against Rey Mysterio, who's just as tough as those guys, you know, I'd have a better fighting chance because we're roughly the same size. He's 3 inches taller than me. He's like 5'6". I'm 5'3". So that doesn't make me any less dangerous than him. It just means my odds are a little bit more in my favor if we get to fighting in the streets. If we're in the wrestling ring, I'm a dead man. He's gonna West Coast pop the shit out of my ass. He's gonna hurricane me because I'm not a wrestler. So he's gonna fuck my shit up. You know, it's the same thing. That's his fight. That's his arena. I've got no chance in hell in winning that. Where if we're out in the streets where I've been fighting for the majority of my life versus some of these other guys who play sports for a living before they transitioned into wrestling. They weren't like professional street fighters, or they weren't street fighters at all. I'm not a professional street fighter because I don't think that's actually a profession, but I am a street fighter. You know, I never got paid for it because I stopped fighting when I was 12. I started fighting when I was 6, and it wasn't by choice. It was by force, not course. So I know my way around a battle. You know, simply that. As a martial artist, I learned really quickly what works and what does not for sparring, actual combat, and what looks good on film. Okay, if you want the truth, that shit that looks good on film is just that. It looks good on film. Sparring and real fighting are only a pin drop away from being the same thing. Okay, the difference with sparring is you're doing it out of fun, and it's controlled. When you're out in the streets and it's a real fight, it's winner take all. Those are the 3 differences. Now, we can go all day, we can go back and forth as martial artists on what works and what does not work, and what works for you might not work for me, but what works for me might not work for you. And that would be a true statement. But I will tell you what works for all. If a person can't breathe, they can't hurt you. And it doesn't matter how big that person is across the battlefield. It doesn't matter how small, how fast. If you stop the breath, you stop the fight. The question is, can you stop the breath without stopping the fighter permanently? That would be the difference maker between you having a self-defense trial and having a murder trial. Okay? You have to weigh those things in thought and action before you actually get into combat, because how you train is how you're going to fight. And if your teacher has taught you how to be brutal, I'm sorry, you're going to be brutal. You might not have control over that, because most people, once the fight rolls, the adrenaline surges, no one really knows how they're going to handle the aftermath of a fight until the aftermath hits them. Okay? And that's just the way it is. I learned in all of my street fights that I'm small and I don't have a lot of upper body strength. But I'm fast and my targets are really simple. Stop the air. That's the target. If you can't breathe, you can't hurt me. I learned that. I learned it really quick. I learned it really fast, and I got damn good at it. Sternum, throat. Those are my targets. Everybody who teaches you boxing, they teach you breadbasket or the face. You know, there's so much more to boxing than the breadbasket and the face, but for your primary targets, jab, 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 jab. You know, uppercut, uppercut. Those targets are face, breadbasket. Yes, you can uppercut to the breadbasket. It looks funky, but it can be done. You know, it's the same thing as if you jab. You know, most boxers, they jab straight to the face. It's very rare that they go to any other part of the body than the gut. Most martial artists, we do everything. We kick, head shots, chest shots, gut shots, testicles if you're unlucky, knees, thighs. You know, it just depends on who you're fighting and what style you're fighting. Now, in a real fight, you depend on all that shit. But your targets are simple. If you try to go into a fight and just decide, I'm going to break this guy's arm, or I'm going to break this guy's face, you already got evil intentions right there. Don't go into a battle like that. Go into a battle with one mentality. I need to survive. Whatever the cost, I need to survive. You know, then you work out the minutia with the cops when they get there. You know, but the thing is, if you are going to use movies, make movies. If you're going to fight in the streets, you're going to fight. You need to know what you can and can't use. And I'm not going to say that you can't use anything from the movies in the streets. I'm not going to say that, because there have been some things that I've used from movies, as I talked about in the other videos, where I Captain America somebody in a sparring match. Anything you can do in a sparring match, you better be able to do in the real streets. And I've never had to do that in the real streets, but I've done it in sparring matches. So if I can do it in sparring matches, I can do it in a real street fight, providing that the environment allows me to do it. In closing, I'm going to talk one more thing real quick. This is an extra bonus footage for those who are watching, because we're past the 45-minute mark, so I'm just going to go. My plan was to make Kung Fu movies so that I can open up a school of Kung Fu and teach it for free. My policy of teaching Kung Fu was going to be completely unorthodox. Let me explain why. Because I'm only going to teach women and children. That was one. I stopped teaching males at 16. After you get 16, you can go to another school, because I'm not going to let you have your macho complex kick in. Why do I say that? Because I had a macho complex issue when I was 16. And then, though I've never tried to fight my senseis, you'd be surprised at how people are raised these days and would think I'm going to go beat my sensei ass because I'm going to prove him wrong. You would be surprised at how many people will do that. I'm not going to do that. So if I know you and your family, I will probably teach you till you're 18 or 21. But if I hear of you using what I've taught you to hurt people, I'm going to hurt you myself, so that you know that's not why I was teaching you that shit. And also to teach you a damn good lesson on what you're not supposed to do with what I teach you. So my unorthodox method is this. No forms, no gis, show up. I need to study you. I'm going to set the children in front of the Power Rangers for an hour, for a day, maybe 2 days. Then I'm going to bring those kids into the dojo, and I'm going to get them to show me what they've done. I know you're thinking, that sounds really fucked up, James. I will explain that to you in 1 second. I'm going to teach these kids body mechanics. If you can only kick so high, that's where you stop learning. It's also where you start learning. Because you need to learn that if you can't kick high, you need to learn how to adapt. Okay? So you're going to show me all the kicks that you've seen on the Power Rangers. You're going to show me everything that you think you can do. And you're going to be doing it on a mat so that you don't fall and break your fucking legs. I'm going to do the same thing with the adults. There is a reason behind this madness, okay? See, if you can only kick this high, I have to teach you Kung Fu where you can utilize only being able to kick this high. Now, if you can kick all the way up there or something, you know, there's no room in here, so I can't really show you the complete height of my kick. If you can kick up here, I have more to work with, okay? I'm not going to teach you something that you can't use. I'm not going to teach you something that you can't work with because I don't have time to waste your time. So if you can punch a certain height, a certain length, if you can move a certain way, it's going to be decide what style of teaching that I'm going to use for you, what works best for you. I will more than likely not teach the children Drunken Master because they don't need to know anything about alcohol or any of that stuff. I could blend it in with capoeira because the sway in Drunken Master is equivalent to the Jenga in capoeira. For those who don't know what that is, you know, go Google capoeira. There's no room in here for me to demonstrate. For Drunken Master, your sway, you need to have the most flexible back that I no longer have. But, you know, if you get your sway enough, you should be able to combat someone who is doing capoeira. You should be able to Jenga and you should be able to move with your sway if you're doing Drunken Master. Sadly, I do believe that there is a style called Drunken Monkey. I'm going to have to Google it. I was told it was Drunken Monkey when I took a lesson in it. I don't know if it was real or if someone was just pulling my leg, but I can teach that too. Because basically, I'm going to teach you every basic thing and how to adapt to every other style that I have learned. And why am I going to teach it that way? Because the only way you're going to learn is to learn it the way I teach it. Now, when I was in the Army, I had a problem with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It wasn't working for me. I know enough of it that I can roll with you and lose, or I can roll with you and win when I get pissed off and adapt and switch styles. Okay? You need to be able to switch styles on the fly. So if I teach you what you can use by how your body works, you will not lose any fights unless you do the one thing that you're not supposed to do. If you don't practice everything that I teach you, if you don't absorb everything I teach you and utilize it and put it to good use, if I teach you the crane or the snake strike, you know, and I teach you here, 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 if I teach you where to use it, and you choose not to, and you come back with a black eye, you weren't practicing. You weren't practicing your blocks. Those are the last things I'm going to teach you before you leave, because those are common sense things. I shouldn't have to teach you that. Those are common sense things. Block, 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 block. I shouldn't have to teach you that, but I'm probably going to have to teach you that. So those will be the last things I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to kick and punch. I'm going to teach you how your body works. And then I'm going to throw you into the sharks. And you're going to learn, my method worked, or is it you that doesn't work? Here's the thing. If you don't train, if you don't practice, it won't work. And everyone who teaches you martial arts should have taught you that from the day you walked into that door. Practice makes perfect. It's a true statement. If you don't practice, you're not going to get better. If you don't train, you're not going to be prepared. So you need to practice and you need to train. And yes, Ghostman training is also going to be a part of this thing. Why? Because when I was younger, I was also taught Ghostman training. And no, it wasn't from Vanishing Sun with Russell Wong. When I started learning martial arts, one of the things that the sensei said, when you go home and practice, you need to use the Ghostman technique. And at first, I was kind of bewildered. I was like, what the fuck is that? He's like, you're training by yourself. So you're taking yourself and doing fighting moves. There's an imaginary person. He's kicking. Boom. He's throwing a punch. Boom. You know, you're doing that. And you're going to practice it every night. And I did. Every night. Boom. 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 You know, Ghostman on the left. Boom. You know, Ghostman on the right. Boom. You practice the moves that I taught you by fighting Ghost. So then when you have to fight someone for real, you can utilize those movements that you've been practicing to actual combat and technique. That's why you have Ghostman fighting, which will be required. I'm going to sleep now because somebody can't see my damn lights. Thank you guys. Be seeing you. If I can find the cursor.